What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, getting my Saturday grind in. What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, getting my Saturday grind in for all of you. Hey, if you appreciate the 6-day work week, sometimes a 7-day work week, I hope today will be the day I earn your subscription. I'm about 500 subscribers behind the line where we need to hit 1 million by the end of the year. So hopefully today will be the day you hit that little red button down below the video and subscribe. Now, I've been covering Joe Rogan and his censorship battle with Spotify pretty extensively here on the channel, and I thought it was very interesting that not only has he responded to the claims, but he has basically said they're absurd, that nobody has spoken to him. It's, he hasn't heard anything. I don't know if I believe him. I'm starting to turn a little bit on Joe because, he's acting like it would be totally absurd that he would be facing censorship at Spotify, almost gaslighting his viewers. Now, it's entirely possible that nobody has spoken to him, of course. But has he yet addressed that Spotify kept more than a dozen episodes off the platform for nebulous, we don't like this person reasons? You also talk about, this going all the way back to early September. Spotify employees threaten strike and protests if Joe Rogan Podcast isn't censored. Now, it's entirely possible that both things are true. In fact, it's probably the most likely scenario, meaning Joe probably hasn't heard anything from Spotify directly, and privileged Spotify employees are probably whining about Joe. The average salary of the Spotify employee is more than $120,000 or $130,000 from what I read, entitled people at a time in which much of the country is still struggling to pay their bills. Unemployment is still an issue. I don't really want to hear from Spotify millennials about somebody's content they don't like that's paying their gigantic salaries. If you see, Joe Rogan has become Spotify's $100 million problem. When Spotify signed Joe Rogan's widely popular The Joe Rogan Experience to an exclusive licensing deal, it took a gamble bringing the show to the platform by allowing Rogan to maintain creative control. Now, that has been what Joe has said from jump, that they weren't going to touch the show, and I don't believe him. I believe he believes that, to be clear. I believe he believes that. I believe he was told that as well, which is all you really can hold him accountable for. But what I mean is, I don't believe that the show will remain untouched. It's already been loads of problems for Joe Rogan. And quite honestly, when he signed this deal with Spotify, didn't he basically agree to never platform somebody like Alex Jones again? That's something not a lot of people are talking about, right? There's more than a dozen people who, Jordan Peterson's daughter, I think, Sargon of Akkad, Alex Jones, a bunch of other people whose episodes were not ported over to Spotify, which I don't think it's that much of a leap to then say, okay, well, I assume that Joe can't platform these people anymore either. So he's lost creative control, at least in the area of people he can have on his show. Now, he could prove me wrong by hosting Alex again, but I don't think that he's going to. But now he's responded. Popular podcaster Joe Rogan and his relationship with the streaming platform Spotify have made headlines in recent weeks, and he addressed some of the controversies during a recent podcast with comedian Tim Dillon. Rogan and Dillon spoke on the Joe Rogan Experience about Spotify employees potentially wanting to censor and edit his podcast. Spotify has exclusive licensing right for the Joe Rogan Experience, and according to reports from media outlets, some employees have threatened to strike if they do not receive editorial control over Rogan's podcast, taking issue with some of the subjects Rogan speaks about as well as what he says. However, according to the podcaster and UFC commentator, Spotify has not spoken to him about censoring his show, about any internal company dialogue about the situation. Quote, "Listen, me on the outside reading the effing articles like, oh my God, Spotify is censoring Joe Rogan," Rogan said. "Spotify has said nothing. Listen to me. Nothing. They haven't said anything to my manager. They haven't said anything to me. They haven't said nothing. They've apparently had meetings, but they have a lot of meetings. They have meetings about all sorts of shows. They have meetings about the music that they have. Now, I think I want to be careful here because I do like Joe, but I don't think he's acknowledging the elephant in the room here. That he obviously willingly agreed to letting Spotify deplatform these episodes. He can't host these people on, and he's almost gaslighting. Like, it's totally absurd that Spotify would ever get control over his show. Goes on to say, quote, "It's an open-minded company," Rogan said. "They treat their employees very well. They let them have discussions about things, and I don't know what these discussions are like. I don't know what happens. I really don't care. Oh, I really don't, I'm sorry. But in terms of them silencing me, zero. There's been nothing. Again, except for the fact that they banned a dozen of your episodes." Rogan also then said that there's likely a Spotify employee upset with the podcast he did with Abigail Shrier. In July, Rogan recorded a podcast with Abigail Shrier, a journalist, writer, and author of the book Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze is Seducing Our Daughters. During the episode, Rogan and Shrier spoke about trans people and transitioning. Some criticized the podcast, calling Rogan phobic. That's, of course, the company line. Whenever you say something that criticizes a trans person, you are automatically phobic. It's a great shield. I think that, and I've said this a million times before, I support everyone living their life the best way they can, as long as it doesn't infringe on anyone else. This includes trans people. But to act like there aren't trans trenders, that there aren't people pretending to be trans, is to ignore obvious facts, all right? And the trans community would even admit this. Rogan said to Dylan, "Is there somebody at Spotify complaining about the Abigail episode? I'm sure there's someone complaining about it. It's a transphobic episode. It's not. Is it a transphobic episode? No, they're wrong." The podcaster defended his stance and conversation he had with Shrier, saying that people should be able to have an open dialogue about transitioning, especially when it comes to children. Quote, "I don't know what the actual conversation has been from Spotify talking to these employees, but if the employees are listening, I would tell you emphatically, I am not in any way anti-trans," Rogan said. "Not in any way. I'm 100% people being able to do whatever they want as long as it doesn't harm other people." And Rogan and I agree almost like word for word on that. "If you choose to do anything, whatever you want, whatever your personal choice is, I'm happy for you to be happy." Rogan said he is 100% open-minded and believes that he should be able to have conversations about controversial subjects like children transitioning. His rebuttal can be viewed here. He also said that Spotify employees are concerned with his podcast should be much more concerned about lyrics and the music on the platform. Rogan said, "I'm not sure they've had issues. I'm sure they've had issues with other episodes as well, but I've said before, I'm talking off the top of my head, and a lot of times I'm saying stuff I don't even mean because I'm saying because of this effing podcast. And if you have a problem with people saying terrible stuff and you work for Spotify, maybe you should listen to some of the lyrics, okay? Because some of the lyrics in this music you guys play over and over and over and over again makes my stuff pale in comparison. Pale. If you're listening to some rap music right now, and I'm not anti-rap, I love rap music, I'm just saying go back and listen to NWA. Go back and listen to some early stuff. Go back and listen to Ice-T from the Body Count days. And he's not wrong about that. Certainly, lyrically, rap music and even some metal, like horrorcore, stuff like that, gets pretty specific and pretty spicy. I do wish Joe Rogan the best. I don't know if he just has more faith in Spotify than I do. That's probably the case. But I would argue that it doesn't look like he's exactly free from criticism from Spotify. I would argue that he absolutely has agreed to some form of censorship by barring certain individuals from appearing on his show, by allowing certain episodes not to be ported over to Spotify. But overall, Joe Rogan is still a great force for open conversation. And I hope he continues to ruffle feathers at Spotify because we need people that are going to push the envelope, especially in Silicon Valley, where all these giant, super huge mega tech companies are censoring everything under this banner of words we don't like all the time. And hey, if you support free speech and you support fighting for it, please consider subscribing to the channel. There's a red subscribe button right down below. I need 500 more today. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed, please make today the day you choose to do so. I hope I've earned it. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.